Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Championship Series America. That's right, we're going to do America in Europe for the round of 16. For the next 2 days, we're going to bring you high-quality action from our WCS America stars through Groups A to D. Let's take a look at the 16 players who have qualified through to the round of 16 in WCS America Season 1 for 2014, as you can see on your screen right now. Group A features HyuN in there. Well known, of course. He's going to go up against 2 other Koreans and a lone American in Group A. There's a Canadian in Group B, of course, HyuN, and a 16-year-old American in the form of Neeb. Group C will feature Arthur, Maxed, Tasia, and Tudming, and we'll finish in Group D with 2 men I think you're very familiar with. That's right, Port and Bomber are drawn together. It's going to be a fantastic couple of days of WCS America StarCraft 2 action. And to bring you some of that action is the man standing next to me right now. Todd, how are you doing?
You know, every time the answer is the same. I'm doing great. We're going to have some great StarCraft games here. Why wouldn't that be great?
Well, it's a different type of WCS for you and I. We're used to doing the WCS Europe. WCS America has been very interesting this season. We've already seen a number of players go out in the round of 32. Hero amongst them, of course, not making it through to the round of 16. We're going to start with Group A, and we're going to show you that Group A right now. Just give you the flavour of the 4 players that are in that group. Hopefully you can see that in a moment. There we go. HyuN, Hart, Oz, and puCK. All have their moments in the spotlight, all very similarly aged as well. We're going to find that a theme, actually, through the next 2 days. The age of the players is actually, on average, much higher than any of the other WCS regions, apart from Group B, which features a 16-year-old tomorrow. But today we're going to concentrate on Group A and Group B later on. Of the 4 that you've got in this group, who stands out for you? Who's the obvious one?
I think a lot of people will agree that HyuN and Oz here are the 2 favorites, but Hart is somebody that we haven't seen much recently in tournaments. There's going to be a big question mark on how he's going to play, and I think puCK, he's shown good things before against some of these players too, so it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on him and see how well he does, because he's the American in WCS America. Of course he has to go far.
Yeah, of the 4 that we've got, HyuN is obviously the standout player. He's had a terrific 2013, obviously a major winner in the past as well, or a Premier League winner. The first game we're going to get into in a moment, actually, let's just show you the brackets so you know what the matches are coming up. We're going to get into our first game in just a moment. It's HyuN versus puCK, which is a great opening. Oz is going to take on Hart in our second match. It's dual tournament format. If you're familiar with the GSL, then you'll be familiar with WCS. Same format, win 2 and you are through. HyuN versus puCK is going to open us up. It's an interesting matchup because although puCK has struggled a little bit in PvP and PvT in the past, his PvZ is actually very, very good indeed. So it's his best matchup, and he goes against a Zerg. Awesome. He's also 7 wins out of 7 in his last PvZs, and on top of that, he's got a 3-1 winning record against HyuN. So statistics, schmistics, whatever you want to call them, on paper, he's got a good chance against HyuN, but he's a tricky customer, isn't he?
Yeah, on paper he's done well in the past. I think he beat HyuN twice out of 2 times that they met in the WCS, so that's a good sign. The thing is, this is where it matters the most, and this is where HyuN plays the best. For me, one very important thing to keep an eye on during this match is going to be puCK's strength, but also his weakness is his predictability, because he has the one style that he likes the most, the Forge expand, the quick gases on his expansion, and then some Immortals, the third base, he likes to play aggressive. He has some good results in the group stage against Sen, but against somebody like HyuN who's been preparing hard. I came in today and HyuN was actually looking at a file on his computer with a lot of text in Korean. I didn't understand it, but he was basically, it was a playbook. So he's done his homework, and when somebody like HyuN does his homework against somebody like puCK who plays a fairly repetitive style, I guess you could say, not to say any bad word about it, you have to be worried. What has HyuN come up with? Does he go into quick Vipers? Is he going to have some good counters to the style of puCK? I'm a little bit scared for puCK here.
Yeah, I mean, puCK's come through to the round of 16 for the first time. Last year he was in Challenger Season 1, then round of 32 for 2 consecutive seasons. So it's his best result so far in WCS America. His group in the round of 32, as you rightly said, he beat Sen 2-0 and he beat Select 2-0 in that group. So that's good form from his point of view. Likewise, HyuN come against Revival and Buell, both Zerg, so relatively easy for him in the way that it panned out. Relatively easy. These two are they're difficult players to beat at the best of times, but for him, ZVZ, you know, he's fantastic and it currently ranks 6th in the world in ZVZ, so no problem there. But against the Protoss, I wouldn't say he's struggled, but he seems to have more problems against Protoss rather than Terrans or Zergs.
It's funny you said that, because I would have used the exact same term. I would have said I wouldn't say he struggled, because sometimes he does well, but it's true that he struggles also a little bit. If you ask him about his EVP, he will say that he has a hard time with it, but then you see him beat top players. I remember him beating SOS at a DreamHack, so he's definitely good in the matchup, but it maybe the matchup is the shakiest in.
Yeah, inconsistent.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, he went against SOS and then he'll lose against someone on ladder that he's never heard of before.
Like me.
Like you. Hey, you said that, not me. That's your proxying, that is. DreamHack Valencia 2013 champion. We know all about that. But in WCS terms, he hasn't really delivered yet. I mean, we look at his previous results. Round of 32 first season. Dropped into Challenger in Season 2. Didn't even make it into Premier League. And then last season, round of 16 in Season 3. So he really needs to step up and go through the round of 8 here, surely.
Yeah, and I think this might be one of those times where he's going to come into it most prepared compared to before, because everybody now fully understands how important WCS is, and I think if he comes into this really prepared, we could see HyuN actually completely storm this group.
Okay, well, we're going to find out very shortly. Don't forget, you can also interact with us via all the usual social media channels, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Use the hashtag on Twitter, #WCS, and send us your thoughts on Group A. Who's going to win? Who's going to go through? 2 places up for grabs for the round of 8 on their way to a $25,000 first prize and the all-important 2,000 points in the WCS season as well. Our first match is moments away, so let's hand you over to our commentary team, and I'm pleased to say that we've got America's finest. That's right. It's Rotterdam and Nathanius.
Very American indeed, Paul. Thank you very much. And of course, big thanks to Le Tot as well. I'm Ken van der Kooi, also known as Rotterdam, and with me is Nathanius here, live from the ESL studios in Cologne, Germany. Nathan, how pleased are you to be here, and how excited are you for the games today?
I'm very excited, Rotterdam, and it's cool. We're not exactly in America for here, but we've got that American feeling. We have an American player in our first match, and I'm quite excited for both groups today overall, actually.
And we have someone with an American passport with us.
Yeah.
And you're bringing some freedom upon us today?
For everybody, sure.
There's plenty of freedom to go around. puCK versus HyuN is going to be our first match, and let's just go a little bit on about what puCK, Le Tot and Paul were talking about, because they were mentioning some interesting facts. Yes, puCK has beat HyuN a couple of times. It was even this unfortunate moment in WCS 1 where puCK won the first series, I think even 2-0. Then in the second series, the deciding series of today, he was up 1-0 and then he still lost 1-2. I spoke with puCK about this earlier today as well, and I really like what he said. He said, like, yes, I've been doing well against HyuN, because we were talking about like what other group could he have been in? Would he rather play, for instance, against Revival than HyuN? He's like, nah, I've done well against HyuN. On the other end, that might work against me, because HyuN is definitely not going to underestimate me. He's going to go hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You know, Todd said it himself. He had the playbook ready for this ZVP, and puCK. He's well, we can see the players here getting ready to do their map vetoes. Definitely a player that can be very back and forth as far as his performance goes. But how do you feel about our map veto process here?
Earlier today I called it all, but then everyone was watching and they just vetoed the maps that I called out. I'm definitely expecting Daedalus Point to be vetoed by puCK. I'm not sure if he's going to veto it at first. From HyuN, I can imagine that he's going to veto Yangsu, and then maybe Polar Knight, or maybe Altazim, but definitely Yangsu, I guess.
Yeah, not surprised about the veto from puCK for Daedalus Point. I don't think any Protoss likes to play against Zerg on that map.
Everything pretty much straightforward so far. Actually, puCK is going to be the one vetoing now. Sometimes they use like A, B, B, A, but now apparently it's like A, B, A, B. So puCK will most likely veto maybe Habitation Station, or yeah. Yes, there we go. Man, I'm still on fire, Nathan. Even with the rehearsals, I was good, but now I'm still very good.
All right, so we have 3 maps left.
I think Altazim is going to veto, or Polar Knight. I think Altazim.
It's a big map. There's still some interesting builds put on it, but I have to say, we end up with that core you actually had mentioned earlier, Frost, Heavy Rain, and Polar Knight.
These are 3 maps that we are going to see a lot throughout the entire tournament. I think these are 3 universally agreed upon maps where everyone is like, I don't mind this map all that much. Heavy Rain is going to be our first map, which I think is an excellent map for those Immortal Sentry pushes. Not necessarily like the big 2-base all-in like we used to know it from partying, but maybe more like, I'm going to set myself up for this push. And we also know that a long time ago, puCK was a big fan of just making an insane amount of sentries and then following it up with a ridiculous amount of Blink Stalkers, like up to 160 supply of Blink Stalkers, to the point where you're like, does this still work? But he made it work. He got really favorable engagements, but slowly but steady, already, he drifted away from that style a little bit. And these days it's a little more solid with some mid-game aggression, but after that a more passive playstyle like LeTut mentioned.
Yeah, and we've even seen puCK pull out some of the trickier plays that were calling his match against, and I think it was on Polar Knight, even going for quick Warp Prism play to force field off the natural expansion. So we could see any variety of build from puCK, I believe, as we are getting into the lobby for our first match. We'll be starting this up soon, but HyuN, I kind of know him. He likes to play a solid ZVP style. I usually think of Roach-based play. What do you expect from the Zerg player this match?
You know, it's really funny because so many Zergs have been playing so meta-like in this matchup. It's like, Protoss is going to get a quick turret base and I don't want to do too much about it. I don't want to overcommit. But what we saw from HyuN at IEM Katowice is that he was relentless with his aggression. Overwhelming amounts of Zerglings and Roaches are still very hard to deal with if you're a Protoss player and you're trying to go up to 3 bases very quickly. It's really funny when you watch these games, and often it looks all so simple. You know, you cast Photon, overcharge a few force fields, and Protoss is fine now. But if HyuN hits hard at the right moment, also providing or more like hiding the information from puCK is key. If puCK doesn't realize immediately what HyuN is up to, he can definitely be caught on surprise or caught with his pants down, some of the Americans like to say. Yeah. That would be bad. I think puCK is going to play this rather safe. Todd mentioned the Forge fast expand. I'm not even sure if he's going to go Forge. I'm kind of expecting a 1-gate fast expand on Heavy Rain. And then maybe with some mid-game pressure to at least, you know, see what's going on and try to dictate the pace of the game a little bit rather than sitting back, because HyuN is a scary player to just sit back from.
Yeah, I think either of these players, you especially don't want to let HyuN do whatever he wants, but if puCK decides to go for some level of timing, you'd kind of mentioned this. I think he's done it. I've seen him do it off of 2 bases. He's also been able to do it off of 3rd. You brought up the heavy Blink Stalker. I think usually with +2. Sometimes he goes to the Mortals, sometimes he doesn't. On Heavy Rain, which do you think is better? I feel like that 3rd base is a little bit more wide open, but there's a good number of chokes that you can block off.
It's hard to say, it's hard to call, especially because I'm not like super familiar with puCK's current PvZ. Like if you asked me 3-4 months ago, I could pretty much time it out for you. I could say in which moment he was going to move out, which moment he was going to hit. And he was just relying on his control. Back then his force fields combined with Time Warp and Blink Stalkers. And I know a lot of Protoss haters out there are like, oh yeah, it's so tough to micro some. I can guarantee you guys, it's not as easy as it looks. Look at my 40% win record on ladder. It's pretty tough, but puCK made it look easy back in the days. It's hard to say. I'm not going to call it out exactly. I'm just ready for some awesome StarCraft. We've got 2 groups today that will be played out, guys. So it's not just Group A. It's going to be Group B later today as well, with some very exciting names. We'll have HyuN play. We'll have NiP play. Overall, I'm just ready for a good day of StarCraft action, Nathan. And I'm just going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it's been quite a fun wait since the round of 32, coming back to Cologne to finish up WCS America. But I think we have a lot of great, interesting matchups, especially you mentioned NiP in the second group being potentially the biggest underdog of the whole season among anybody.
But 2 weeks ago, when we were sitting in this exact studio, well, actually the studio next to us, but basically the same building, we were both giving a lot of love to NiP before the games even started. And, you know, later on, we both looked pretty smart. When NiP was just out of control, he took a map of Pult, he was able to defeat Minigun, and overall, he just looked really solid. I know that puCK is one of those guys that was already extremely happy, and I cannot emphasize enough on how happy he was. I think he was running around the house, that's what he said, and then he was doing a victory stream later on the night, that he made it this far, because, you know, there are players out there, round of 16, it's a formality for them. You know, if you're Tasia, you show up and you wonder when you have to play, and then you're like, all right, so who am I going to play in the round of 8? For puCK, that's not the case, which could work against him, because it's very dangerous to be too early satisfied, and you might like go into the games a little lackluster. On the other hand, it's also a very carefree feeling. He's like, hey, I've already won $3,000. This is amazing. I secured my spot for WCS Premier League next season with the current system we're working. If you made it to the WCS round of 16, you'll be part of WCS Premier League again next season. So I think we're going to see a very carefree puCK who hopefully can just bring his A game. And then it's just, you know, we're going to see if it's good enough against the, I think safe to say, overwhelming favorite of Group A, HyuN. Yeah,
definitely. And you mentioned it earlier, HyuN. If he and even Todd mentioned it, HyuN is on his A game. This will not be an easy match for puCK by any means. But we're counting down. It's about to start off. Our first match of the WCS America round of 16 begins on Heavy Rain.
Yes, indeed, Nathan. I'm ready for a long day of StarCraft. puCK looks pretty ready as well. He looks calm. He looks relaxed. So, I mean, if we can take anything away from his physical appearance, I think it looks good. He looks I would say, confident.
Yeah, I had spoken with puCK last night when he got in, and he said, as long as I don't feel too tired from the trip, from the travel, no jet lag, I'm pretty confident about my match. He mentioned, of course, being able to defeat HyuN in prior games, but can he do it now is the big question. We are loaded in. We are here on heavy rain. You can see it's puCK against HyuN, the Korean versus the American, and, well, spawning in the bottom position as our blue Protoss player, the first American here playing in the round of 16 from Team IVD Gaming. It is puCK.
And over here on the north side of the map, we've got one of the scariest Zergs in the world. He got so close to making it to BlizzCon last year while barely earning any points within the WCS. This season he wants to do it different. He is Rockets HyuN.
Very good point to bring up. He almost made no WCS points really from the actual WCS system itself, partially due to our Protoss player here. So I feel like this is just a matchup that is just going to be cool to see no matter what, because of the history that these players have and a little bit of the hype that we built up, since this is a very important match for HyuN. puCK, though, placing the pylon very early in that natural. It looks like that Forge build that we discussed could potentially be one of his options here.
Yep, could still be a Nexus first as well, as he's scouting immediately with this probe as well that dropped that pylon over there. So Letot was right so far. That's a pretty early pull for HyuN, a 13 pull. That makes me wonder, what do you want to do with that? Is he gonna make some old school nurture links, as we called them back in the day, so just run across the map and, you know, force out a small reaction? If you're puCK right now, like when I scout this as a Protoss player, I'm like, 13 pull. So what does this mean? Should I play overly defensive? Should I wait with my Nexus? Or will I just be fine going Nexus into Forge? I think the best thing that puCK can do is go Forge before Nexus, so he will have a cannon up in case HyuN decides to make a bunch of Zerglings. Because you don't want to start off your very first game in WCS America Premier League round of 16 with 4 to 6 Zerglings in your base. That's so frustrating.
Yeah, puCK's going for that Nexus first, though. And this, I feel, we saw the timing of that spawning pool from HyuN. It was a little bit early, and I think if you're HyuN, if you're the kind of player that studies your opponent and prepares for a very important match like this, you say, well, even if you watch any of the puCK's VODs from his stream, puCK streams quite a bit, you say, well, he likes to go Nexus first a lot, and this is what HyuN's going to try to do to abuse this. 6 Zerglings in production, and puCK's probe, he saw the spawning pool timing, so he has to have some plan in his head, but he hasn't even yet finished his Forge. He cannot build a photon cannon.
Okay, he's going to see these 6 Zerglings run across the map, and he probably is like, 6 Zerglings? That's a lot of Zerglings for this phase in the game. First blood is drawn, even though mechanical units do not really bleed, of course. I think he will be able to temporarily wall up with maybe another pylon. It's going to slow his build down a little bit, but as long as these Zerglings don't get in, it's not a bad start for puCK at all. I would actually be quite satisfied with it.
Yeah, I think to get it with the Nexus first would be pretty nice. There's a lot of surface area available on the gateway, but the photon cannon will be done soon as well. He's going to start nibbling on this pylon, taking out the shields, and puCK's already prepared, throwing down additional pylons to close this off. It's resources you don't want to spend, but it's still a bit tricky.
That's good. That second pylon was really good. I was wondering if he was actually able to build another pylon there, because it's quite far out of range of the other pylon, and the second pylon wasn't ready yet. That's a lot of pylons, guys. I hope you could follow my train of thoughts there. Either way, good start here for puCK. Of course, wasted a few resources, made 1 pylon more than he would normally make in this phase in the game. As you can see, 23 out of 44 supply. But above all, Nathan, he didn't have to worry, as how White would say, Zerglings in his base.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a win for him. Doesn't lose too many resources compared to the larva that was spent on those 6lings on that earlier pool. I feel like the pylon cost delayed that cybernetics core a little bit, but since his gas was also delayed, everything should still line up reasonably well for him. HyuN, on the other hand, is going into Zergling speed. We have a Roach Horn being placed at 5 minutes and 20 seconds.
I think he might be expecting Stargate play out of puCK, and if you go into like 1 Zealot and then drop the Stargate and then Chrono Boost out Phoenixes, it can be very hard and very annoying to deal with some silly Roach push. But it's also interesting, worth mentioning, look at that Overlord placement from HyuN. I find it, normally it's on the right side of that 1 pylon near the cybernetics core. It's sitting on that sweet spot. Right now it's not. You know, if he Chrono Boosts out the Stalker, he's gonna most likely kill it, I think.
Yeah, he's getting the Zealot first.
No, maybe not.
He wants to just close off the wall in the natural, and then he's going into a Sentry. I feel like the Sentry opening, this could still lead for puCK eventually going for a Robo-based play. He's done it quite a bit, so I think that's kind of interesting, this Roach push. But how much do you think this can do if he has a Sentry available? He doesn't have a Mothership core yet.
The thing is, there's not that much DPS in this Protoss army. That cannon is reasonably exposed. If 9 Roaches, that's what we have on the production tab, man, HyuN doesn't wait a long time to get his feet wet. He's just going for it. If puCK drops the Stargate, I think he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. He also has absolutely nothing on the map. No probe, no pylon or anything that's going to scout this. Okay, it's going to be a robo, but this is still a tough hold. He needs to identify this real soon, and he needs to drop 2-3 extra cannons, chrono boost out this sentry, and then get warp gate ready. I think this is a really tough hold. Without a mothership core, with a very... like, he has almost no DPS. How do you defend 9 roaches when you have such a little DPS?
This is definitely not the most powerful army he could have, and HyuN has arrived. The first roaches are here, the Zerglings as well. He moved the Zealot out of position. He needs to force field, does block out the Zerglings. He's having the sentries fight from the high ground, but they're getting the damage onto that photon cannon. All of the shields gone. He's trying to just build his wall backwards, staggering it towards the natural expansion, but the cannon is dead, and it's just 2 sentries to kill off so many roaches and lings.
I'm very worried. The Mothership Core will be here soon, but of course Photon Overcharge won't be ready for a long time. He's gonna lose power on most of these pylons. That might mean that he loses warp gate technology as well. The first Immortal is in production. This is actually smart. He can maybe just hold the high ground. Is that possible? Does he have enough? Oh, he loses a sentry. Those roaches shooting from downtown on the low ground. This is quite rough. This is a very rough start for puCK, and I'm afraid the writing is on the wall for this one.
All right, well, he's got the 3 pylons up. The Zerglings will be able to break through, and there's the GG. puCK will drop the first map to HyuN here at the WCS America round of 16.
Cool build by HyuN. This is actually a build that I've died to multiple times because I like to play a little greedy. Of course, I'm like quite the all-inner as well. But every now and then, you know, it's like, all right, 1 gate, Stargate. And you know what? I want to get my Phoenixes out as soon as possible. Look at this grin. Such a cheeky guy. And then you just have so little to actually defend. It's like, well, yes, I had a cannon, but I didn't see those roaches coming. And if you don't scout it, if you don't see this coming at all, it's almost impossible to defend.
Yeah, it's just a tough thing to deal with. He saw the timing of the pool, was able to hold off against the early Zerglings, but the follow-up attack is what really was able to kill him. And that's a good start for HyuN. puCK, well, this I feel like our next map, well, this won't be too bad for him. I think we still have Frost on the table.
And of course, guys, this was also a build by puCK where his Mothership Core wasn't that quick. That's just something that you normally do. You know, you normally get like your sentry and then you're like, shall I get my tech down before I get the Mothership Core? Yeah, you know what? I'll get a 2nd sentry, so then I'll be sort of safe against crazy amount of links. And I will have my... Robo as well, and then eventually the Mothership Core will pop, and then I'll cast Photon Overcharge. But right now, it was just a little too late. That Mothership Core could have been quicker. If he would have had an MS Core after, let's say, the 1st sentry, then he gets a Mothership Core, then he gets 2nd sentry, and then a Robo. It's still not an easy hold, but then at least you have that Photon Overcharge to fall back on, and that will eventually shut things down.
Yeah, it's just an interesting, I guess, facet of his build order that he was able to get. He spent his early gas on the sentries very early on, as soon as he could afford them. And even having that Cybernetics core a little bit later also caused him to have the Mothership Core later. And with that gas investment, you just couldn't get it in time to save the energy for that Photon Overcharge. So just a couple of things that, you know, just a few adjustments that you can make that can maybe make things a little bit easier. But puCK is going to have to turn things up for this 2nd game, and it is on Frost. So Rotterdam, as a Protoss player, how do you feel about this map, especially for puCK trying to come back down from an 0-1 position in this series?
I think Frost is like this universally agreed upon map that everyone kind of likes. It's just, there's not a whole lot to dislike about Frost. It's a map that is pretty balanced. The only thing that can be very unfortunate is if you scout in the wrong direction. Because an opinion of a lot of pro players right now is like, hey, Frost is a really good map, but I wish it was forced cron. I really wish that like if you scout it, you actually know what you're playing against. So it can be a little unfortunate, you know, if you scout early on, but then you scout the wrong spot. All right, I'll scout the 2nd spot, and then it's wrong, and then before you know it, something crazy happened, which you tried to scout. Of course, you know, there might be some wise people out there. It's like, well, you can scout with 2 probes. Yes, you can do that, but you will completely wreck your own economy. If the other player just plays a macro-oriented style, then you're already putting yourself in a pretty dicey position. Hashtag dicey. It's gonna be a dicey weekend, especially with James in the building and Letoto, man. I'm not sure if I can handle this amount of diciness.
And there's a lot of craziness to be had all around in the StarCraft, but we're here on Frost already with some interesting spawn positions, I feel. We can see our first player in the bottom left position, the blue Protoss from IVD Gaming. It is puCK, down 1 game in this best of 3.
And how often haven't we seen it where the Korean is the favorite for the series, yet bust out some crazy, slightly cheesy strategy in game 1. That's what this red Zerg did on the right bottom side of Frost. We know him as Rocket's HyuN. You know, small plug for Rocket is that I actually started recently using one of their mice, and I must say it's a lovely mouse. I really enjoy it. I wonder if HyuN uses the same one as I'm using, because I think it's really good. If it is, I will feel better about myself. It's like, nice, I'm using the same mouse as HyuN. It's good.
Is definitely channel a little bit of their energy. puCK gets a pretty fast scout off this game.
Yeah.
There he sees the spawning pool doesn't feel as early as it was in the last game, but it's still a pretty sharp timing. 14 pool.
I was 15, I think, because he makes it at 15 and then you lose his drone, you know.
Oh,
and then the supply goes back to 14.
Math, man.
It's okay, you know. It's not easy. Those +1s and -1s, you know. We all make mistakes. But I do really like what you said, Nathan. It's important that puCK scouts this immediately. This also forces HyuN to maybe go spawning pool first, because he's like, okay, there's a probe in my base already. It would be very stubborn of me to try to go hatch first now and then realize I can't do it and still have to drop the spawning pool. But you know, you'd rather play against 15 pool than double hatch before you scout it.
Yeah, that is definitely true. It's one of the scary parts of these 4-player maps if you don't get a quick scout off. And puCK will go for the Nexus first. Once again, this map we see just 2 Zerglings on the production tab so far. So puCK doesn't have anywhere near as much to worry about as maybe he would have on the last map.
No, he should be more than fine. He also had a good scout off. He saw the pool was a little later. Forge into gate, so everything is very standard so far. What is interesting is that no extractor went down yet for HyuN. And when there is no extractor now, well, maybe it's still in the next 10 seconds, but if he's still not going to drop one, then most likely he's going to stay gasless for a while. And then I really wonder if he even goes up to 3 hatcheries. Yes, he does. So 3 hatch before gas. Of course, nothing too crazy against Forge Fast Expand, because that's how we used to do it. But it's still a very economic opening over here by HyuN.
Yeah, I had to say, you know, he doesn't get the fast scout off on puCK because his first Overlord went to the top right spawn. So he still doesn't know exactly everything that puCK is doing in this game. So I feel like he can kind of predict, okay, well, he's like to go Nexus first in the games that I've studied. He did it on the last map. Not too crazy to assume he'll do it this game. And he'll even manage to score a probe here as he slips by the main base.
Yeah, kind of annoying there for puCK. He might lose 1 probe. Yes, that Zergling did pick up that 1 probe kill. And above all, he forced puCK to warp in another pylon, trying to block this one little happy Zergling out. This is the ultimate Hydra Zergling, man. And I know Hydra plays Protoss, guys, but there's a story behind this. There's one happy little Zergling in puCK's base that's most likely going to stay alive for a while. And you know, this might seem irrelevant, but this is so annoying if you play Protoss. Because if puCK wants to do something crazy, like drop the Robo immediately or drop the Stargate, right now he can do that. And if HyuN controls this one little very happy Zergling, this is like a Doge Zergling, man. I wish I had a team set where I could turn Zerglings into Doge. But I could never kill them. That would be sad.
Yeah, it's really, really annoying to deal with. You don't have anything basically until the Stalker is out that can catch up to the Zergling to pick it off. And all the meanwhile, both players are really just powering up. We haven't seen any tech laid down by either of them. HyuN still no gas at all, just happily plugging away at drones. You know he has this Zergling here to still be annoying, and takes a couple hits from the probe, but still alive.
Both extractors went down at 5:45, so kind of standard. They're late though, they're not super late, like it's not 6:10 or something, but it's still kind of late. So very economic opening so far by HyuN. Of course, he scouted everything that he possibly needed to scout. He realizes that he doesn't have to worry about anything crazy that puCK could potentially throw at him, because at the end of the day, what can you do with 1 gateway and maybe 1 zealot that's going to charge across the map? A sentry is on the production tab right now. Even a sentry is going to take a while before he can take down this happy Ling. If I was HyuN, I would feel very pleased with how this game went so far. Look at that second cannon. puCK is worried already. HyuN got into his mind with the first game.
Yeah, I think he had that Zealot out at the tower, and the Zerglings were able to pick it off. So he doesn't know 100% what's coming his way, and he's fearful of that, as you mentioned, that potential fast push again. I feel like he saw the drone wanting to go for that 3rd base when he had his probe there earlier, but it's hard to be certain what the Zerg is up to at this point.
That wouldn't be the greatest trick that HyuN has ever pulled. He's quite a cheeky player. We saw that Grain in game 1, and that reflects his playstyle quite good, I think, because you never know what he does. But for now, it's just macro, and lots of drones. This time the Mothership Core also got produced before the robotics facility got wiped in. puCK cancelling a gateway there, I believe it was? Or was it another pylon?
Yeah, a gateway there to block off his wall.
Okay, so if I was puCK right now, I wouldn't be too pleased with how this game went. He misread the situation. He's down 17 workers already. You know, I know people often say like, you know, that's kind of standard, but being down 20 workers and being down a base and not having anything in the near future, that's really scary. This is basically a free pass to HyuN to make another 5 to 10 additional drones, and then he can just make units, because whatever he's gonna make, it is going to be good, you know, whether it's Roaches, Lynx and Hydras or something else. It is good. He might be able to deny a 3rd base, or if you have to worry about a big, strong 2-base play, then so be it. He already has the drone count, so yeah, eventually you're going to make units, right? Even when you Zerg.
HyuN just starts everything at once, throws the Roach Horn down as well as the Hydralisk, and he's getting his +1 range. So he could just see straight up Roach Hydra. I always kind of know HyuN is he likes the Hydralisks a lot if you can avoid building the Roaches earlier on to squeeze out a few more. But puCK, we're seeing this Overseer actually get the scout off on this, that blink and that +2 attack. This is a classic puCK way to play, and that Mothership Core actually taking quite a bit of damage.
He has to be careful. I don't like this that much because another Queen could come in. I don't really understand this move. It's probably gonna fall. Oh my god. Wow, Mothership Core goes down. Absolutely unnecessary. Kind of an unforced error over here by puCK. And you don't want to make those because HyuN is the player that's gonna force you into errors by how good he is. So you definitely don't want to make some unforced errors because then you're just making your own life twice as hard.
Yeah, and HyuN already, with that Overlord, able to see the Warp Prism. He positions the Queen, ready to shove it back. It doesn't look like puCK's going to be able to get much done with this Warp Prism at all. He has a third base going back home, but these Hydralisks as well, Warp Prism barely manages to slip away.
Did HyuN spot that third base yet? I don't think he did. He did lose one Zergling there against the Sentry, so he may be aware of it. He's producing a lot of units, but now he's also going back to droning, and we have the Infestation Pit going down. With these positions, I feel that this actually allows Swarm Host to be pretty strong as well. We see Hive Tech to be fired up immediately, so most likely we'll eventually see some Vipers, but I'm a little bit surprised. I don't really understand the Hive Tech in this phase, but I'm sure that HyuN will explain it to me in the near future.
Yeah, I know definitely before the Swarm Host styles got a bit more popular, HyuN was that guy that we'd see brave enough to go for 9-minute hives against some greedier Protoss players, but in this situation, I mean, has HyuN ever been a big Swarm Host player in the games that you've seen? I personally haven't seen HyuN be really that guy to go for that split map scenario where he just tries to draw out the long game.
No, he doesn't really do that, but of course every Zerg knows that sometimes there's almost, there is no choice. I recently had the pleasure to talk a little bit with Dario TLO as well. And he said like, oh, I'm really not a fan of it, but sometimes I feel like I just have to, otherwise it's going to be very hard to break Protoss. Like normally this Hive, I would say if you play against a RoboBay player, then you're like, all right, I'm expecting Vipers because he wants to adopt those Colossus, but there's no sign of Colossus tech in the near future. Of course, adopting Immortals is still something because it allows those Roaches to stay alive a little longer, but I'm a little surprised by this Hive being this quick.
Yeah, puCK finally sending out a hallucinated Phoenix. He should be able to see that this Hive is already done, which I think is going to make you worry a little bit. And the Hydralisks actually, I think, denied that scout. I don't think puCK saw the Hive.
I love that he just kept 2 little Hydras there. He didn't bring with his army. That was on purpose. Same time, Contaminate being used on the robotics facility. That's a very cute move. And this Hydra Ling army is coming in. And puCK's army, puCK is going to need some good force fields. Otherwise, this is going to be quite tough, I think.
And he's not really in a position by this third base. He does use the Photon Overcharge, but the Hydralisks don't really care too much. Try to just focus down the probes. They're forced to move to an Extractor. Comes in. The Sentries are up front, focusing those with the Roaches and the Hydralisks. Just 3 Sentries remain. He does still have those 3 Immortals, but all the shields peeled off of one of them. He's force-fielded HyuN's out army, but for how long?
Yeah, this is actually not going that bad yet for puCK. I expected him to take a little bit worse of a beating. He did lose 7 probes in the process. Big shout out to Funkadelic, of course, for showing that to us immediately. But that's not the end of the world. He's still on a comfortable 65 probe count, which, I would be more than satisfied with in this phase in the game. He has a lot of Blink Stalkers. I believe +2 just finished up for puCK as well. Yes, it did. This is not that bad. Of course, those Vipers are coming. Those Immortals, I wouldn't want to be an Immortal right now. There are many days where I love to be an Immortal, Nathan. Right now, you know that you're going to be picked out. But will HyuN have enough to actually take out all those Blink Stalkers? Hydras are good, but if the Blink Stalker reaches a critical mass, then it could be tough.
Yeah, that's really the key, is just have just enough Hydras to overwhelm all of them. But those Stalkers don't deal damage too quickly. And here he has the Arc. He might even try to use some Blinding Clouds, abducts the Stalker and an Immortal. And this is Vipers. There's no Colossi, no big expensive units to pull, just the Immortals. And he does grab 2 of them, but puCK with 2 left behind here, yeah, he's holding on just fine so far. Abducts another Immortal.
Yeah, it's really hard to prevent that. If you don't have High Templars, maybe he could have put them back a little further because he didn't need to have them in the front. Now 20 Roaches on the production tab, so HyuN's like, all right, I reset that Immortal count. This is my moment where I'm going to go crazy with Roaches because I know that your Immortal count is low. You might even refuse to remake them because of my Vipers. Even though I don't think it would be bad for puCK to at least get a few Immortals on the production tab. The Blink Stalker count is very high. This is dangerous though. Does he have an Observer? No Observer, as we can see in the unit production tab. So this is risky. I don't think puCK should be out that much forward. I would love to see puCK research charge and get some pylons around the map, you know, wipe in a few charge lots, because that's what's going to be very annoying for HyuN.
Yeah, one of his only pylons out on the map actually just getting cleaned up by HyuN. And you said he doesn't have an observer, he's just sitting out on the creep. Now he has one in production.
Risky.
But, you know, this allows HyuN to abuse his position of the army. He runs these roaches into the third base, says, well, if I know your army's not there, then I can come here, pick off a few of these units, gets a stalker for his time, and forces puCK to pull everything back as the main army also comes towards this third base. The Immortals out front, roaches be able to pick this off with no trouble, and now there's a blinding cloud forcing these stalkers to walk forward into the Hydralisks, and puCK's just going to blink straight up into this.
Yeah, still, there's still so many stalkers, even though a lot of them are not firing. This is the old school puCK, the puCK that had a lot of success WCS Season 2 and 3. Even though he never got as far as he did this season, this is the puCK that we know. He makes a ridiculous amount of blink stalkers, and he often makes it work. The stalker count right now is at 38. You know, 38 stalkers.
There's 26 Hydralisks on the production tab. puCK, this push almost feel like he has to do some damage with it with the probes that he lost at his third base. He finally has an observer to help clean creep as well. The drones being brought forward with this. The three queens, everything here, trying to stop this attack from puCK. The warp prism though, allowing him to reinforce, and the spread, the arc on these stalkers is so big on these Hydralisks. I just don't think there's enough Zerg. He has another Viper here, but what's a blinding cloud gonna do when you can only cover 3 of your opponent's units? puCK blinks on top of HyuN's army. He's picked off most of these Hydralisks. There's still 40 lings on the production tab. This is potentially HyuN's last chance to stop this push.
A couple of those stalkers are falling though, but puCK still doing a good job in keeping them alive, pushing HyuN back, and GG is called. puCK winning with close to 40 stalkers. You know, Nathan, you know you have a lot of stalkers when our observer Funkadelic zooms out as far as he possibly can, and all of the stalkers still don't fit on the screen.
They're pretty big units. That's It always feels like such a bold strategy to go for that many stalkers with an army composition. I could say from personal experience, you try to do something like that, and your Hydralisks just seem like they destroy everything. But puCK knew exactly when to take those fights, even being a little bit forward out on the creep. I almost feel like being forward is what baited HyuN into coming in for that attack, which set puCK up for the counter push to win.
I really loved the very first hold. I think was the most important one, where he only lost 7 probes. The photon overcharge to the third base was a smart decision. Like he did it immediately, and it was the right thing to do. Sometimes you may drop like, maybe I need a time warp or something, but I don't think he had energy for both, because he lost that one photon, lost that one mothership core. So he only had, you know, one of the 2 spells available. Went for photon overcharge, kept his army very close to his natural, and HyuN tried to set up this big flank. Well, we're going to take a final look at the winning reaction from puCK. As you can see, big relief. You know, it's nice to pick up a win in your first series, maybe even the entire series. But yeah, that first hold I feel is the most important one when you play against a Roach Hydra style. The Vipers, you know, they were pretty good, but at the end of the day, you know, just the maybe even Blinding Cloud would have been better in that first fight than abducting, you know, the Stalker. I guess was a misclick, but those Immortals, I guess it was still good. I don't know. I think the first hold is just the most important one. If you defend one time against Roach Hydra Viper in this case, or Roach Hydra Ling, then you're often in for a good time as a Protoss. And
it really allowed puCK to snowball the game. We can see it when we see the camera on him. He's got a good smirk on his face. He's feeling a lot more comfortable about this match, especially after how fast that first game ended. And this will be the deciding map. It's Polar Night. We're counting down into this. And puCK, he looks ready as ever.
And Polar Night is quite a good map for a 2-base play that we also know that puCK loves to do. You know, maybe some 3-gate, 4-gate aggression with a mothership core. Then he can always time warp out, force out some units, and then set himself up for a stronger second attack. Is that what we are going to see? Are we having another upset in WCS America? As Paul mentioned earlier today, we had plenty of those in the round of 32, but that was online play. Right now we're playing offline here live at the ESL studios in Germany. It would be an awesome way to start off this long but hopefully very fun day of StarCraft.
Yes, it would. And here we have our American Protoss player in the bottom position of Polar Night, looking to take the first match here. With all the odds against him from IVD Gaming, it is puCK. Some solid decision-making to stay alive in that second game.
The face of a happy StarCraft 2 player. You could just see like that underlining grin a little bit. He's pleased with how that game went. Over here on the top side of the map, we got a Zerg player, I think, who's up to something. He is Rockets HyuN. This is crazy. I think he sent out a very early drone. Then he pulled off an extracted trick as well. I don't think that this is just to scout. Do you think he's going to try to take the natural of puCK? You think that's what's happening over here?
It's really interesting to mention that as puCK is also doing something different. He's, for the first time we've seen in the series today, put the pylon in his main. He has a gateway, and from what I've heard, and I guess you could confirm this or not, as a Protoss player, if you want a gateway expand, proxy hatcheries can be a bit annoying to deal with.
A bit, Nathan, a bit. That would not be my choice of words. But yes, it can be pretty frustrating to deal with. But HyuN might change his mind. Maybe he wants to only do it against the Forge Fast Expand, because then you can also really mess up your opponent, especially if you still cancel the hedge at the final moment. Instead, he's just going to go hedge first. I'm not surprised by the gateway first from puCK here. I actually thought he was going to do it on Heavy Rain as well. He didn't do it on Heavy Rain, but I feel this is just a perfect map for like a small mid, you know, between early game and mid game timing, force out some units. Is HyuN gonna go double hedge before? Yeah, he is.
Feels like a bit of a greedy play. He's tucked the drone behind that third in case a probe were to come over and check this out, but
HyuN has done this often in the past, double hedge before pool, so this is as economic as it possibly gets for a Zerg. Of course, we all remember HyuN versus Naniwa Game 5 back then at the Intel Extreme Masters New York. That's a game where it backfired badly. This game, you know, he knows what he's up against. He's scouted already, so it's not as stubborn as HyuN was back then. Still, you know, a little risky, very economic. And I think that puCK, seriously, I think we can almost, you know, time this game out. He's going to go for a small push with Mothership Core, force out some units, and then set himself up for a strongest second push. That's what I think we are going to see. I'd be surprised if we see any three-base plan from puCK.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering where puCK will go with that mid-game push after he does the early attack. We've seen Robotics Facility play so far. We saw it in the round of 32 as well, and use of Warp Prisms as well, especially in the mid-game stage to set himself up for the later Immortal attack. But versus a 3-hatch before spawning pool, from puCK's perspective, would that attack, you think, be stronger to go for this Mothership Core push?
It's hard to say. I think it will be okay. But you know what's also worth mentioning, that HyuN still did not drop an extractor. This is like he's playing this like he's playing against a Forge Fast Expand on Altazim or something. It's like, no, HyuN, this is quite a small map and you still have no gas. And as greedy as it looks, you can defend this as a Zerg, but if you make one mistake, if your queens are caught out of position one time, it's 2 extra gates already. Is there going to be a turret gate as well? This is really important. puCK, what? Nah, I guess that's just a probe that grew up in a pylon. But still, with 3 gates, Stargate is followed, he can still do some pressure. I'm a little surprised by the Stargate. Does puCK know that he's playing against triple hedge?
He hasn't moved a probe out the whole game.
puCK hasn't even scouted at all. Okay,
he doesn't know anything about what HyuN's up to.
Okay, well, that changes things a little bit.
I mean, the Phoenix at the very least, if he goes for Phoenix or Oracle, they'll be able to pick up information just by going over to harass. But
is bad information still information you want to have, Nathan?
I mean, it's late, but it's something's better than nothing at this point in the game. You got to figure out what HyuN's up to eventually. But it doesn't. You kind of look at HyuN and you say, oh, what else would he do differently? Just get his lair and get a Hydro Sen and a Roach Warren one more time? Like I don't see HyuN trying to do anything crazy that maybe puCK's worried about scouting just yet.
No, I mean, better late than never, but never late is better. That's what I like to say. And this Phoenix is going to see something that I don't think he's too happy with. Phoenixes are good, and Phoenixes represent some guaranteed damage, whether it's an Overlord here and there, whether it's a few drones, whether it's forcing out some Spore Crawlers. Phoenixes will do some direct and indirect damage. But, okay, he's going to scout it right now with the Mothership Core. And this has to worry you a little bit, right? If you are puCK right now, what do you do? The work account shows us right now 49 against 38 already, 7 more on the production tab. At the 7-minute mark, he's going to be up close to 20 workers. It's a lot.
He's got quite a few, and HyuN was able to get the Overlord in to see that Stargate. The first Phoenix are coming out onto the map, looking for any more of those Overlords to kill. He's getting the Robotics Facility up as well, adding on the Forge, so he can move into his upgrades behind this. He can still go for Immortals of some kind of wondering where he wants to go with that Robotics Facility, since he already has the Stargate on the map, but Lair is on the way for HyuN now as well.
I find it very hard to call right now what puCK is going to do. I did not realize that he scouted it this late. Maybe that was his plan all along. Even if he scouted it before, that's a bad lift. This Phoenix is going to have to abandon that lift. Man, he's being weak in the gym. Don't skip leg stay, Phoenix.
You can't lift everywhere. It's a Spore Crawler zone.
Yes, you can. There's always something to lift. But yes, not above a Spore Crawler. It's a dangerous game. A Robo Baby. You know, a build that was popular for a while, oh my god, he doesn't get the Overlord either. He might still get it eventually, but then he's going to take more and more damage on these Phoenixes. This has not been puCK's game so far, I feel. You know, a build that was popular for a while, which I don't think puCK is going to do, as he's already close to 50 probes. So I guess he's still going to try to go up to 3 bases. It's just a little later than, you know, you normally would like to. Then again, if you go Phoenix and Colossus, you can't really take an expand at like the 7-minute 30-second mark. That's too eager. If he gets it down around 9:45, it's still quite good. What I wanted to say is that like a build that was popular for a while was Phoenix into a 2-base Colossus push. That's something that SOS did a very long time ago when it was in the GSL finals. Forgot who he played against, but that's a long time ago. It's a build that I used for a while. It's a build that I know the Canadian Protoss Desro is not a fan of. As he said, it's outdated and not that strong. And lately, when I tried it on ladder, I have to agree with my my buddy Desi. It's indeed not that strong anymore. So I'm not surprised that puCK is not going for that.
All right, well, we're seeing the Colossus range start up, so it looks like we will have that Colossus tech come out. He's also producing Void Rays. I feel like the Void Ray is never bad for taking the 3rd base as the Protoss player to scurry away any light pressure that could come. Like HyuN sending just a few Roaches. Now, actually, quite a few Lings in the production tab as Speed's coming to a conclusion, but taking a 4th base at the same time.
You are spot on. It's never a bad choice to have a Void Ray. It's going to help out a lot against Roaches and Zerglings. puCK. We see HyuN in action later today, guys. He will be featuring in Group B. We do see puCK taking that backdoor expand, and that's interesting. And I must say, Nathan, I kind of like it because I think it would have been very hard for him to take any of the other 3rd bases. This is still going to be a little tricky, but it's going to be a little easier for him. Oh my god, the sentries are quite exposed.
Yeah, he's trying to get the surround. He does force field them out, but now the Roaches are here, and well, they get up close and personal with this Protoss army.
Ah, those force fields were as good as they could have possibly been. All of the Zerglings are dead already because these Zealots do have +1, and now the Void Ray is there to save the day. Amazing by puCK.
He didn't focus any of the sentries.
Did he even lose a sentry? He might have lost 1, but that's it.
Yeah, no sentries lost at all.
Oh my god, that's sick.
For how close those Roaches were to the sentries, I was almost certain they would die. Pretty solid save, and now that 3rd Nexus is on the way. He's starting a 2nd Stargate. And it looks like he could have some Colossus Void Ray setup going on.
That could have gone so much. Oh, be careful with those Phoenixes. Ah, that's painful. At least 3 out of 5 Phoenixes will fall in the middle of the map. So for all the good he just did in the left bottom side of the map, this is a little bit of a setback. But still, that could have gone so much worse. Like, worst case scenario there, he loses all 3 sentries and he loses a few Zealots, and then the Zerglings are still alive. But those force fields, even though they looked a little messy and all over the place, actually worked out absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so here he has just those 2 Phoenix, but he can still get the read on what's going on here. He sees this Hive is in production once again. Not quite as early as the last game, but it will still allow him to get fast Vipers. And I feel like versus Colossus Void Ray, you have much bigger targets to pull with those abducts. Those Colossi, it's not as questionable as whether you want to use Blinding Cloud versus the Immortals. You want to abduct those big expensive units.
Yeah, this is going to be quite tricky. puCK from now on is basically going to be defensive, even though he's moving out right now, but he does have a Mothership Core. Vipers are not out just yet, but he's going to have to be very careful. And then HyuN later on, when he has those Vipers, even though he's making a lot of units, he's leaving a little bit of supply for Vipers though, is looking for that perfect engagement. Which could be tricky, because not very often do you see pros players take this base as their 3rd base. But in the scenario and with the openings that we had, I actually think it's a very smart decision by puCK. And I'm curious to see how this one will play out.
Yeah, puCK's a bit scared to take the fight just yet here. The Hydras clean up a few gateways. He has Roaches at that 3rd base picking off the cannon, forcing the Warp Ends to be spent there.
It's
and
because
this is some nice pressure from HyuN.
I think puCK was afraid because he didn't know where the Vipers were. Like, you don't want to move forward and then get your Colossus abducted. He doesn't have the information that we have. Like, we could have seen, like, with some force fields and those Colossus doing some serious work, he would have crushed that army. These Roaches are being very annoying, by the way. This is HyuN has to be careful as well. Some force fields. You need force fields, puCK, though.
Yeah, he's trying to flank this army.
That's good enough.
3 Colossi still standing strong, though. These Hydras are dying crazy fast. He took some of the health off the Void Rays. He's still attacking this 3rd base with some of the Roaches, but it looks like this Nexus is going to stand for now.
Yeah, Nexus is going to take a lot of damage, so the Nexus might eventually fall. Yeah, I think the Nexus will fall for sure. But at the same time, HyuN lost a lot of units. He is on 4 bases, though. Worker-wise, well, he's on 79 drones as well, so I guess he's able to recycle some Roaches and Hydras. Yeah, puCK has been much more cost-efficient this game, but of course, HyuN has been outmining him severely, so it's okay for HyuN to be cost-ineffective.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's up 4 bases against what is now 2. He restarts that third Nexus, and even he lost a couple of the probes. He had to fight off the roaches with those as well. But now we see Warp Prism coming in for puCK. He's still producing Void Rays out of the Stargate. He's now getting charge and +2 attack. So Warp Prism gives him some more aggressive potential, but I still feel like HyuN has more than enough time to remax, get himself up, and now he has these 3 Vipers of full energy.
A couple of roaches will go down again. I agree with everything you just said, but I also feel that the clock is ticking for HyuN. It's just a matter of time before this Roach Hydra army is most likely not going to cut it anymore. Look at that Void Ray army. I don't think we have Storm just yet, but we do have High Templars to feedback. That is already something. If this Protoss army reaches, well, almost where it is right now, I don't see it dying anymore against Roach Hydra Viper, no matter how good HyuN has done. He's done a good job in denying bases, cancelling a base. It hasn't all been for free, but he's gonna need something more than just Roaches and Hydras soon if this Colossus Void Ray ball keeps climbing.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like he can just straight up just annihilate this Zerg force if he gets the feedbacks on the Vipers as well. This is a very powerful army. He's going to run by some Roaches into the main base.
That's really smart by
as
HyuN.
the Void Rays come out. So he's trying to pull puCK back, but puCK's rallied. His reinforcements are able to deal with this. Hydra's trying to go to the natural, take some Colossus heat, and he's got 2 Void Rays trying to cover this 4th Nexus, which has, hasn't been denied yet.
I really like what HyuN is doing, because if he just waits and sits up and attacks into that big ball, he's in a lot of trouble. Instead, he's spreading puCK in, making that army, making that ball a little less strong. One Void Ray will get abducted. Ooh, Hydra's misrallied there. Good force fields by puCK, immediately jumping on that opportunity. If you give puCK a chance, he's gonna jump on it. And even though I really like what HyuN has done, puCK is not falling apart just yet. Yes, this is annoying. Yes, he's losing a few units here and there, but it's not spiraling out of control. He still has 63 probes, and that is the most important thing.
Yeah, and this is... So there's the abduct on the Colossus, pulls one in with a Void Ray.
But that's all. Like, the rest of the army is not strong enough here. Okay, a lot of Roaches coming in, but there are a bunch of Void Rays protecting those Colossus. These 4 burrowed Roaches, that's the only thing where puCK is struggling a little bit. 2-3 cannons would solve this problem. HyuN is very rich, but... you'd be surprised how quickly that bank goes empty if you make Roaches and Hydras all the time and you take a couple of unfavorable engagements. puCK is very exposed right now, though. Just everywhere is basically like, Roaches, come on in.
The Sharks are swimming, and this is...
fire.
The last time he jumped into puCK's base, he picked off the pylons powering those Stargates. He's been trying to delay the production, and that might be what we see again here, just focusing these pylons on the key tech structures. And is there... Where does he have any observers? He has 1 out on the map. It is back in the 3rd base area. And he's also splitting off Burrowed Roaches to that natural as well, while getting ready to push this 4th base. puCK needs to control perfectly here. The Templar run out front, getting picked off by the Roaches and Hydralisks.
That was quite painful indeed. A lot of guys lost there, but still, if you're on 4 bases, it's okay to lose a few units here and there. Just when I said he wasn't really falling apart anywhere, I feel right now he's taking quite a bit of a beating. But still, HyuN is spending a lot of money. All that puCK needs is just to somehow find a place to stabilize, get a couple of cannons up, so he doesn't have to worry about these freaking annoying burrowed Roaches that are all over the place. And let's keep a close eye on that Spire. What is that Spire for?
Yeah, HyuN has had a little bit of a bank, mostly in the mineral department, but he does have enough gas. I mean, does HyuN go into Corruptors? Does he have enough resources to make a Mutalisk switch at this point in the game?
I think it's more for Mutas. I think from this point on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. There is double Stargate. Let's not forget about that. Okay, he's making a few more Roaches, which I think is smart, because right now Tech Choice will probably just not cut it. This is a really entertaining, uplifting game already. The first series here at WCS America round of 16. Dark Templars joining in the fray. Oh, I love it. That's one way to deal with those annoying burrowed Roaches.
They'll kill them quite fast. He does still have an observer in his main base, so no trouble at all there. Finally building another cannon at that 3rd as well.
We might see Swarmos. Yeah, or maybe... What do you think he's going for? I don't really... No, what do you do? Like, if he on the 5th base, I would say, okay, he's going to go Mutas, which I think would be very smart and very good. But he doesn't have the ridiculous amount of gas like you mentioned before. He is taking a 5th base right now, all the way in the 4 o'clock position of the map, basically. Okay, we do see 13 Mutalisks, but he's just starving for gas a little bit.
Yeah, there's 1 Archon, and are there no Stalkers on the map? So I still think this could be a bit difficult to deal with from puCK's perspective.
This is really important if he's going to unpower those Stargates again. That's what he needs. Like, every minute from now on is like 2, 3, 4 extra Mutalisks. If he can unpower these Stargates... Oh, I love it, HyuN. That's a beautiful play.
Man, does he have enough anti-air to fight these? You think are just the Void Rays enough to stop these Mutalisks?
Yeah, I think so.
7 or 8 with the Archon.
With the Archon, he still doesn't have Storm, correct?
No storms. All these Templar can only feedback. He's actually just going for the counter-attack. That's what those spines were for. All the Vipers, the Mutas, the Hydralisks, everything is headed into the main base. The Dark Templar defensively warped in, but the Stargates have been unpowered once again, and HyuN is content to just sit in the main base of puCK and try to force this base trade, as it were. He's cut off all of his tech.
Does his puCK still have a fort? Yeah, he does have a fort there in the main base. We can see. I think puCK needs to just wipe in like 10, 15 cannons at that left bottom base. He needs to say like, okay, this is my staging ground. I'm going to do a lot of damage, but then I need one base that is not going to die. The moment you lose all bases, often you're in a very dicey position against a Zerg that's base trading you with Mutalisk and Zerglings. Even though the Muta count is not that scary, puCK can do this. Like, his army is stronger, I feel, in a straight-up fight. It definitely is. If only he had the money to wipe in 6, 7, 8 cannons.
And that Archon he had in his natural actually just killed the only Vipers that HyuN has on the field right now. So if he gets rid, so if there's no more Vipers to deal with, if he can kill this Hive with the Void Rays, he can actually turn his High Templar that he has with his army into Archons, and he doesn't need to worry about Abducts anymore.
Yeah, he
but he will lose this bottom left base.
But he didn't really have to worry about Abducts anyway, because there's like nothing left that's good against Colossus. He has to worry about losing all of his buildings. Right now, puCK's army is just way stronger, but he has to worry about killing all the buildings before... I mean, does he have... That's the last real mining base, basically, right? Yeah, the one in the left bottom side. I mean, he still has his main, so he at least has a Nexus. So he's not down and out yet. He has 0 probes, but he has a Nexus in his main, and that is the key. That allows him to, perhaps eventually restabilize. And HyuN had lost everything at home. There is still a hit squad of Void Rays, I believe it is, on the top side of the map, being annoying. I think this is starting to look really good for puCK.
Yeah, I don't really see any way he can fight him. I mean, the actual army of puCK, he has these couple stalkers with the Archon, but as long as he doesn't have, as long as all the Colossi don't get caught by themselves, I don't think there's enough Mutalisks to fight this.
I mean, those Void Rays might even... Where are those 2 Phoenixes? Because, like, those Void Rays, I guess it's enough anyways. Like, 12 meters is not enough. Ooh, those 2 Phoenixes are really important. If they are floating around next to those Void Rays will not lose the fight against the Mutalisk. Now, right now, with that Queen... Maybe. Is HyuN going to go for this? Is he going to try to pick that fight?
Does he have any options? He's going to take it. The first Void Rays picked off. And, these Void Rays, they've got quite a bit of hit points. He'll trade a few of these Mutas away. The Queen comes up. There's getting some damage. And there's the Transfuses from the Queen. This is what HyuN needed. And 3 Void Rays remaining. He's going to be able to pick away all of these. But he has lost the majority of his Mutalisks. He only has 3 left now.
So what do you do right now? If you're a puCK, you just run across the map. If I don't have to worry about those Mutalisks killing everything else anymore, what's going to stop my Colossus and Stalkers?
And now he's moving the Phoenix as well. Yeah. He's just moved them for the first time, maybe like 20 minutes from the top of that map. And he's picking off HyuN's base in the bottom right. He did build a lair in the bottom right, but he doesn't have any tech left at all, just the spawning pool.
I don't see a way how HyuN is going to kill these Colossus, that Archon, and those Stalkers. He has almost nothing. I think puCK is going to give us another upset. WCS America Premier League 2014 Season 1 has definitely been the seasons of upsets. We saw Jaedong lose in the group stage. We saw Liquid's Hero lose in the group stage. And right now HyuN, by pretty much all of us agreed upon, the favorite for Group A is on the ropes, and puCK is perhaps going to do it again. He has beaten HyuN multiple times, and now he's showing us that he can do it as well on the absolute biggest stage when it truly matters. Yeah,
puCK seems to be the Achilles heel of HyuN, who's trying to morph another lair. He still has enough of the mineral and gas bank that he could try to maybe squeeze out more Mutalisks or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be enough. And he finds this morphing lair. He's going to kill this, and with Mutalisks down to those Phoenixes, what's left for HyuN to do but tap out? He's running his drones away. He realizes this is a very important game he doesn't want to lose, but he has no tools left. Just 11 Zerglings and a Queen on the map.
Excellent decision and crisis management there by puCK. For a second, I was a little worried, but HyuN had a lot of Mutalisks on the production tab that all spawned, but they were intercepted. He lost, I think, 6, 7, 8, 9 Mutalisks through those Void Rays and that one Archon that were just picking them off. The Mutas hatched at that fort base, they hatched from the main, they flew right across that Protoss army, and that's really where I felt puCK was setting himself up like, hey, this is not all that bad. The Phoenix is even joining in, trying to keep that Nexus alive. That Nexus will fall, but I still think it doesn't matter. He can still make another probe eventually. He could always long distance mine. puCK is still not absolutely dead when it comes to economy. There we do see that one probe in the production tab, which is going to be his second probe. It's good. I think HyuN is down and out, and puCK is gonna walk away with this series. That's insane.
Yeah, what a fantastic series, really, by both players. HyuN still he's still hanging on by the skin of his teeth. He has one more building hatchery in the bottom right. He has a building hatchery in the very top center of the map. And I guess he still feels like he could win a base trade of some weird kind, but with this Colossus sitting in the main with +2 attack, he does not have enough Zerglings on the field to overwhelm this.
That Colossus is the kingpin of the playground, man. You don't mess with that guy. That's the guy when you were in elementary school you avoided. Because you heard stories about him. He's done terrible things.
He'll take your lunch money.
Yes, he'll take your lunch money, he'll take your Zerglings, he'll take everything.
puCK he's just got the cleanup crew roaming around now. He's going to finally pick off that spawning pool. So even if one of these hatcheries finishes, HyuN won't be able to start up another lair like he's been basically trying to do the whole game. I don't think there's much else he can do now.
Nah.
He can't even try to get more tech. He'd have to build a spawning pool first.
He's sprinting 3, but he realizes that this is over. GG is called, and puCK is going to be our winner of the very first series in WCS America. Round of 16, Group A. It was a really fun, entertaining best of 3. And, you know, the games that he won as well. That game 2, some solid holds with some excellent, you know, aggression later on when he was able to. And game 3 was also a very straight-up victory. I felt he didn't get very fortunate with the build order early on. Then he decided to go for the safest third base that Protoss could go for. And, you know, he a couple of times tried to catch the Protoss army out of position, but he didn't manage to do so. It was a very clean, straight-up victory. I think here for puCK, definitely no luck, no build order wins. He worked hard for it, and he deserved it.
Yeah, I was just saying that the look of relief on his face as he won that game, it was such a crazy, as you said, there's really no other way to describe that base trade that was attempted to be forced by HyuN. puCK just handled it absolutely perfectly. I really can't think of too many things he did better, especially just a couple of Dark Templar he warped in at home to finally cut the head off of that roach pressure. I think really allowed him to keep that main base intact, which ended up being his last base.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And once more, I really think that the fact that he was able to intercept so many of the Mutalisk, I think that was key. Because 12 to 14 Mutalisk, that's just not that scary. 23 or 24 Mutalisk, however, will tear your buildings apart. But I can't wait to see what perhaps Paul has to say after win his interview with puCK. And after that, of course, Le Tot with some analysis as well. So guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Kevin. With puCK, who is shaking. I don't know why, but relief, nerves. What is it right now?
Well, I mean, every time I'm on the stage, I always play pretty bad. I feel like the first game was just everything, absolutely everything went wrong. And at the start of the second game, I lost so many units for free, but I don't know. I just started to stay calm all of a sudden, put it back eventually. And I feel like he overcommitted quite a bit a few times.
I mean, what is it with HyuN? You've played him 4 times before. You've won 3 out of the 4. That's now 4 out of 5. That's a damn good record against a very good player.
I have no idea. I think it maybe just our styles clash and mine just kind of overcomes him. And maybe he has nerves because I kept him from Premier League twice already. So there could be many factors playing into it.
Okay, your first time in the round of 16, round of 32, 2 seasons in a row last year. Round of 16, now you effectively top the group right now, puCK. You've 1 game and that's it, you're in the round of 8. Do you start to think about that? What goes through your mind?
I mean, I just want to win. I want to play good. And I want to stay here because I have family that's up here and I want to visit with them, so I have to win.
That's good motivation, if any. You want to stay here to see your family. Let's talk a little bit about the 2 matches. Let's ignore game 1. Forget game 1. Game 1 didn't exist, okay? Game 2, how many Stalkers were on the field at that point? And what was it about mass Stalkers you thought would be the winning strategy?
Well, I was so far behind in tech. He already had a hive. I didn't have any tech going for me. And the only potential way I could win the game is just snowball him with Stalkers. And it worked out pretty well because he overcommitted. But if he would have just sat back and maybe waited for more bank, I would have probably lost the game.
Game 3, bit of a base trade. And then towards the end, were you getting nervous at all? Were you thinking, how is he still alive? How have I not finished him off yet?
Once I saw that he wasn't mining from the top left base, I was so happy. Because then I knew there was no way he could win the game. I think he was just coming to the realization that he lost. Because he's a really good player and I usually lose when it comes to live events, so
Not this time, buddy. Not this time. Who do you want in the next round? I mean, it's tough because they're both great players, but do you have a preference? Is there a style that you prefer to play against?
I mean, I'll get to watch Oz versus Hart, so I think I'd prefer to play Hart because depending on how many styles he can play, I'll have a relatively good idea of just his games versus Oz.
Okay. Well, congratulations and thank you very much for the interview. That is puCK, ladies and gentlemen. He is through to the winners match in Group A against the group favourite HyuN, who will drop down to the lower half of the bracket and still have a chance, but 2 more matches for the Korean to gain his place in the round of 8. Let's go and find out and check out with Todd exactly how this man took down a top Korean.
Thanks, Red Eye. Fantastic series by puCK here. HyuN put up a good fight, especially in the first game. I had talked about it a little bit. I knew he had studied his opponent and he was going to try and come up with some ways to counter his style, counter his build. So he opened with the links, then went for the all-in. puCK wasn't ready, he died. Second game, HyuN tries to go for something different. Roach, Hydra, Viper with some timing a little bit too early. He overextended, the force fields were great. He was held, 1-1. Third game, a bit of a crazy one. Burrowed roaches everywhere. At some point, it started to look pretty bad for puCK. I really thought that this was going to be one of those games where he starts losing too many probes and then he can't come back anymore, but he held on. He warped in enough units everywhere to be able to defend, and at some point, he had enough from all these areas. He thought he had enough army. He had Storm, he had Colossus. It was time to attack. So he starts attacking, and then HyuN straight away goes into a base trade. Remember, this is the very map where we saw a crazy game between HyuN and Hero in Katowice. This was a similar game where he ended up with very few units. Well, not quite as similar as the one with Hero, which I guess in a way was unique, but we have a base trade here where HyuN this time wants to get a better end of it because of his Mutas. So he goes straight away for the Stargates. By the way, very interesting to note, we have 2 Phoenixes over there. They were there the entire game, and I thought this was going to be one of those games where he forgets about them the entire game, and then he loses, or very small chance that he wins, and then at the end of the game he sees them and he's like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. But no, they're Billy and Bobby, man. They were there the entire game doing nothing. And then at some point he realized that they could be of some help against the Mutas. He brought them back. So now we have the start of the base trade. This base is going to be taken out immediately. The army of puCK is very, very strong here. In army supply, he was doing very well at this point, 115 to 94. That's why he attacked. He wasn't maxed out yet, but he had killed a lot. HyuN kept throwing away units at him. So we can play the game from here, and we're going to be taking a look at how fast the bases die. And at this point, having this much army, this much DPS for puCK, that means that the bases of his opponent are going to fall very, very rapidly. You see this one was taken out instantly. The Mutas are struggling to take out buildings. They don't even go for the Stargates at this point. They're going to chase a War Prism. We have a few Hydras in the natural, a few units in the third base over there. Photon Overcharge really helping against those links as well. And in the meantime, this army across the map means business. It's taking out bases very, very quickly. He's going to take out that hatchery here, move into the main. And at this point, puCK knows what's up. He knows he's going into a base trade. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to leave those Void Rays to do the work over here. He goes straight for the Spire, and then this was very, very important. HyuN had a little bit of gas. If he was able to make a few more Mutas at this point, maybe he would have been able to do better. I'm a little bit surprised the +3 wasn't cancelled, but this army is going to start going back to defend now while the Void Rays keep on doing the work in the north part of the map. So basically with this army, you fear nothing on the ground because you have the 5 Colossi. He has Storm and Archons against air, which are really going to help against Mutas. You cannot really go into this with these few Mutas like HyuN has and come out on top. So at this point, the base trade is already going pretty well for puCK, I think, but he doesn't have that many buildings and much economy. You see he has 680 minerals. This base is getting targeted down. He has the one Nexus in his main. He's not mining. Not a single probe out on the map. So it wasn't one yet. So we're just going to fast forward from there and see how he made sure to keep his buildings alive back at home while the Void Rays kept on doing the work on the other side of the map. And I think soon he's going to realize that he has the Phoenixes on the north part of the map. Like he's not using them yet. I'm pretty sure he used them. I saw him use them at the end against the Mutas to really help. So now the Void Rays are going to be taken out, but okay, they take out most of the Mutas. Bobby and Billy are back in business, and they're going to want to finish these Mutas. Now the army supply at this point basically just means that it's already over, 65 to 30. You cannot really win a base trade. If this was 15 Mutas, maybe, but even then he has Phoenixes, he has Stalkers, he has Archon. He has a Templar, so puCK's going to be able to secure the game almost every single time from there. Great base trade, great crisis management, and congratulations to him for moving on to the winner's match. Let's go and check in with Red Eye.
Thank you very much, Todd. Yeah, great breakdown as ever, showing us exactly how puCK won out in his final game. Our next game is a few minutes away. Do keep your tweets coming, though. We do check them out, and some of them even feature on the show throughout the day here in WCS America. One of those tweets comes from a very local person I was going to, is actually a Barcraft. This one came from Barcraft Cologne. So glad I don't bet money on games because I would have lost a lot on that round. GG puCK. Yeah, I think that's the sentiment echoed by a lot of us right now because many of us thought it would go HyuN's way. puCK, the brave American, stands tall. He goes through to the upper bracket final where he'll meet the winner of our next match, and it will be a cracker. It's Oz versus Heart. It's coming next to find out who goes through to play the player who gives 0 pucks.